Hi, folks. Welcome to episode 5 of the Wedding Jigsaw podcast. This is actually the second half of the interview with Elayne Taggart-Mutch about with her band, The Wedding Collective. So it was far too long to put into one podcast. We've already had episode 4, which was the first half. Now you're welcome to episode 5, the second half. You talked about the wedding collective band. One of your first gigs as a wedding band was back in 2015. So tell us a bit more actually about the wedding collective
band. Okay. There are 10 of us in total. We play as a 6-piece. We have all worked together. As you know, John, I've been singing from I was 16. So we have all worked together in different shapes and forms of a band over the years. Mm-hmm. And we just sort of got to the stage, Greg had a really busy job, so he stepped out because his job was super busy. And then Paul came in, and then Paul got married and started a family, and he couldn't do as many gigs. And then at that stage, Greg had moved jobs, so he had a lot more free time, so he came back in. Elayne had been in the band when we were a dance band, when we were Dr. Raw. And then she says she took a sabbatical for 9 years and then came back. And it's really lovely that we have all worked together in the same band, but with different people. And we just wanted to do something collectively, hence the name. Mm-hmm. And so we had we had just a 6-piece lineup, and that was it. And then as things progress, as life progresses for people with marriages, births, deaths, whatever, we were really concerned that, we were going to lose someone. So our drummer, Glenn, at that stage, Glenn also plays in like a blues sort of skiffle type band. Mm-hmm. And he's brilliant. But his love is blues, mm-hmm. and it is not a wedding band. So they had an opportunity to work, and that he was missing a lot of that because of the wedding band, because we were so busy. And so we thought, let's bring in another drummer. And we had another guy who we'd known for years, but didn't know he was a drummer. And we were on holiday with him. That's how close we are with this guy, with James. And we were on holiday for years with James. And then we said, we're going to have to bring another drummer in, because the way I look at it is our priority is brides. Yeah, it's their big day. No, not being disparaging towards grooms, but it really is their big day. Yeah. And you cannot afford to let them down at any cost. You just can't do it. No. So I had this idea, well, that's fine. If we have another drummer, then they can mix and match. And so James came in. James was in with us for a year, and he got a new job, and it had night shifts in it. So, and it was too good a job to turn down. He had also just started a family. And so we brought in Jamie, and Jamie is our guy who's at Queen's. He's the grade 8 drummer. He's absolutely amazing. Yeah, and so Jamie came in. So now we mix and match between us, and it's exactly the same. Greg can go on holidays. Paul comes in and cover. And, Greg and Paul are in the video together, so it's the same people that are singing. Mm-hmm. And Elayne, she'll be there until we wheel her off stage, like she's not going anywhere. And obviously I'm married to Ewing, the one who owns it all. Yeah, I'm just the marketing queen. So yeah, it's been really lovely. We started off as a dance band, and we went for years as a dance band. And if I'm giving you the honest story, we worked for some unscrupulous promoters at one stage or another. And mm-hmm. we were led to believe that the band wasn't very good and we weren't going to get very much work. And it sort of came to a stage, and this is genuine, we came to a stage where I thought, right, do I just jack it in because of a good day job, or do we keep going? And I know probably a lot of people won't believe this, but I actually went to bed one night and I spoke to a promoter, a friend of mine who had died. And I said to him, right, if you're up there, help me out, give me an idea of what to do tomorrow morning. And I got up the next morning and I said to Davey, we need to be a wedding band. And he said, what? And I said, can you give me $3,000 for a wedding video? And he was like, what? We're not even working as a band as it is. But yeah, we went and made the video. We, as far as I'm concerned, the best guy that does video in the world for me, Jim Crone, done the video. He's just outstanding. And the video was sent out, and sent out to a couple of agencies, and it was snapped up. And I honestly don't know, we haven't looked back. We really haven't looked back.
No,
And it's so lovely that I'm on stage with people that I know 20 plus years.
Yeah.
You know, and just before we even started this, I was telling you, you know, at the end of the month here, you know, there's 3 of us who we actually have stayed in a bubble together, obviously because of Greg and stuff. And there's Davey and I and the Greg and Elayne, the other 2 singers, and we're going away just to a farm and in the middle of nowhere, just to chill out for a bit. And the guitars are coming, and it'll be a bit of a sing song and a few drinks. And I just love that the people I'm getting on stage with are like family to me. I love it. And I think that comes across as well.
Yeah.
And I mean, I know sometimes I think I'm a pain in the ass, like, because I keep reiterating, right, okay, guys, this may be wedding 44 this year, but this is this bride's first wedding. So we go in and we're going to play like it's the first wedding we've ever done ever. And our job's here to make these people abundantly happy. And every time I start saying it, now they echo it. They're like, yeah, blah, blah. But, you know, the point's made. And
that's how it is, yes.
I love them. I love the people I work with. I know I'm lucky. I know I'm lucky to work with such amazing people, because I know other bands that don't get that. And you know, growing up when I started at 16, you were hired and fired at random, you know. Well, we were in the industry together.
We were, and I
asked you to manage
with everything
us,
you're saying.
You remember me asking? I did ask you.
I know. I mean, whenever I was managing bands, it was such a nightmare, you know.
Yeah.
And the relationships within bands were such a nightmare. And that's one of the main reasons I got out of it, you know. Because I had at that stage I was only studying for the psychology degree, and I needed every bit I had, you know, just trying to keep them together. It's probably what helped me get through the whole.
That's why you passed with flying colours.
Probably, you know, it was mad, you know. But listen, another question for you.
Okay.
I mean, these days, it is so expensive to get married. I mean, you're no change out of 20 grand, and that's probably not expensive. You're probably no change out of 30 grand in some cases. And I know that bands cost phenomenal amounts of money depending on their popularity and their experience and their talent. Now, you guys are immensely popular. You've got a massive amount of experience and you've got a massive amount of talent. Does that mean you're massively expensive?
Absolutely not.
Okay, what's the fees like?
I'm completely going against the grain here, and I'm sure other bands who watch this will hate me for it, but I do not buy into this theory that you set your price, and if they want you bad enough, they'll pay it. And that's because I've spoken to too many brides at wedding fairs who have a budget of X amount of pounds for their wedding. So if I can make it work for them for that, if I can pay our guys a decent night wage, and we can get a decent wage out of it, and we're making some money, then 100%. Now, I'm not stupid. We don't go out for absolutely buttons. We wouldn't do that. We couldn't afford to do that. But, you know, every wedding we go to, there are 6 people, potentially 7, because we'll have, if we're the DJs booked with us, that's 3 different vehicles going to a venue. So we have to charge a fee for our services, and we have to be in line with what other bands are charging. But I just don't believe in getting into someone because, you know, it's a wedding. People are expected to pay big money. It's a wedding. They're going to pay X, Y, Z. Absolutely not. I think in my mind, we've played weddings at £2.5 grand. And I'm just being honest. And we've also played weddings for £1,000 because I wanted to work with the people. I just think it's really, I just don't buy into this. Well, if I haven't got the money, they don't get banned. So what, because someone is poorer than you, they're not entitled to get, you know, do you get what I'm saying? So, I mean, we don't go out cheap as chips, but I'll try and work. We have a set fee, and the majority of our acts will pay the set fee. But for example, you know, I have been contacted on numerous occasions where people have came to me and said, can you, you know, such and such, getting married, it's rushed, it's happening in the next 8 weeks or whatever, 2 months, 3 months. Can you give us a reduced price? And I'll say, right, what's your budget? What are you working with? And I'm going to say this, to date, I haven't been conned. No, I genuinely I haven't turned up at a wedding and looked around and said, my God, they've splashed out on this, this, and this, and this, and they're only paying us this. I've yet to be conned. And I think that's the way I want to work in the industry. That's it. I know that on the occasions that I have worked with you, you have been absolutely amazing at that. And a couple of times I have booked you and you've just worked with me perfectly. One occasion I was donating some money to charity and you were trying to hand me money back. That's about 10 years ago. Do you remember? You were actually trying to give me money back. And you go, no, give this to the charity. I was like, absolutely not. You know, you discounted it for me. So I think to work with people like that, I think that's probably why we get so much work. And it's not, oh, we're going out cheap, because we don't play gigs for under £1,000. It's not very often.
No.
We would, but I think you have to work with people. I came from nothing, Donald, and I'm not saying that I'm rich now, but I know when I was getting married, I couldn't have, you were my hypnotist at my wedding.
I was, yes.
Thank God you were there. You made the whole evening. You were absolutely outstanding, absolutely brilliant. I'm not even going to tell you how many years married we are this year, but I'm still recommending you all these years later. But yeah, I just think when you were prepared to work with people, then that's when you get it back tenfold. That's why we're so busy, and genuinely is.
I think the other thing people have to keep in mind, and I've said this to a lot of people over the years, I've been in the fun casino business for a long, long time. And putting it bluntly, I have seen so many other people come into the business and then go out of it again, you know. Yeah. And unfortunately, I've seen a lot of people let down when those people have gone out of business.
Yes.
You know? And the reason they went out of business is because they didn't charge it. Well, it's not maybe the only reason, but one of the main reasons is they came into the business, they thought, oh, he's charging that, I can undercut him by 40% for the sake of argument. And they didn't think about what it costs for the upkeep. They didn't think about what it costs for the insurance and everything else, and all the things you need to do to make sure you're here next year, to make sure you're still trading next year. Yeah. And of course, they didn't take that into account. They went out, they got the business, because they were coming in dirt cheap. But lo and behold, they were gone within a year or 2 years or whatever, And it's the same thing with bands. You have a bottom line that you need to ensure you're going to be here. When you take that booking in 18 months' time, you want the bride and the groom to be completely assured that you're going to be there. That band's going to exist in 18 months, Absolutely. That band will only exist if they are getting paid enough to cover all the bills and all the other things that need to be done in a year to make sure that they're still operating as a business next year. Yeah.
And on the flip side of that, Donald,
we get the bottom line,
Yeah, on the flip side of that, I had met a guy at a wedding fair, and he said, "Oh, what's your prices?" And I'd said the basic price of the band, and he said, "No, I don't go out for less than £2,000. My band doesn't play for less than £2,000." And I said, "Okay, many's in the band, 5 of us, okay. And how often do you play?" And he says, "Yeah, we're probably out maybe like once every couple of weeks or once a month." And I'm thinking to myself, but that's why.
Yes.
That's why. And now, don't get me wrong, if
right.
You're a session musician and you're used to getting paid those rates, well, then, fair play to you. And if someone's willing to pay you that money for your band, 100% good luck to you. But, I'm working for not much less than you, and a few £100 less than you, and I'm working 3 nights a week.
Yeah.
Genuinely, and also, I think bands have, just to go on to a completely different point here, but I think bands have had a bit of a bad rap during COVID, and I'm sure other wedding industry people have as well, because when people who booked weddings for 2020 or early 2021, they could possibly have booked them in 2019 or 2018, and then so that deposit has been well spent. And then they come to reschedule their wedding and the band isn't available on their new date. And the band are not being difficult. They physically do not have the money. They have no income. So majority of bands that I'm aware of, the guys are musicians and they don't work during the day.
Yeah.
We have 3 people in our band who are musicians and don't work during the day. Well, obviously, it's a Queen. Sorry, apologies, Donald. So they don't work during the day at all. And so I think they've been getting a really bad rap, especially on the wedding pages on Facebook, about don't book this band, blah, blah, blah. And that's been really, really sad to see. So I wanted to try and combat that. And so for every booking that we have taken, and this isn't trying to plug the band at all, it's just if there's any other bands watching this, it might be an idea for them. I have said, if you need to reschedule your wedding, your deposit and your fee will remain exactly the same until December 2023.
Yeah.
And I genuinely think that's got us a lot of work. I mean, even in probably the last maybe 3 weeks, I've taken 6 bookings, of the 6 ones just waiting to go through, she's making her mind up. But we've taken those bookings based on being able to say to someone, your deposit is non-refundable. However, it will be held and your price will be held to December 2023. Now, I cannot see our level of inflation rising dramatically between now and December 2023 that I can't still go and play the wedding for the fee that I initially agreed. Yes. I can't see that happening. So that has worked really massively well in our favor. And then we hooked up with another band, very good band, and I spoke to them directly and said, how about this? Whatever weddings you guys get in that you can't cover for rescheduling, don't worry about giving the deposit back. Send them our videos and see if they want to book us. And we will do the video, or we will do the wedding at the fee minus the deposit you guys retain. And you do the same for us. And it has worked out brilliantly, because now we have another band. And as soon as it's only happened once, thankfully, that we haven't been able to reschedule. But I was able to go back and say, here's another band. Send them the link to the band. They were blissfully happy, and they had another band there.
Yeah.
And the most important thing for me is always the client. So I needed to minimize as much disruption to the client's plans as possible. And one way to do that was to still make sure she had entertainment. And the main thing was at no additional cost. Because I mean, I don't know if you see on the wedding page, there's quite a lot of people now posting about they're rescheduled their venue to next year, their wedding the next year, and the venue has to charge them 2022 prices.
That's crazy.
Yeah, it's happening a lot. So if I can come to a client and say, you know, you're not going to get your deposit back, however, it's not going to cost you anymore, right through to December 2023, and it's massively worked in our favor, massively.
That's really brilliant. Well, the obvious question is, well, there's 2 questions. One of them I know the answer, because I'm sure you're going to say as soon as possible. When should a couple book their band? That's
totally down to the clients. And these times, immediately.
Yeah.
If you see a band you like, lock them down, get them locked down. And just from personal experience, the amount of people who have came to me and said, oh yeah, we're interested in the band, give us your prices. And then you don't hear from them for about a month. And then they come back and they say, oh yeah, we want to book. I'm sorry, that date's gone.
Yeah.
And, you know, I even had one bride, it's in December last year, say, you know, how dare you take away my date? You didn't book it. You didn't even contact me. I sent you the details you wanted. I sent you the videos. You didn't even respond. And then you come back to me 4 weeks later and say, how dare you give away my date?
Oh, I know.
So I would say in these times, because especially for brides that are rescheduling, it is so difficult, because you booked your perfect photographer that you wanted, your perfect casino like yourself, and you're experiencing this too, I'm sure now. Yep. And then when it gets to rescheduling, these people are not available. You can't get the whole package together again. Yeah. So for that, I would be saying to brides, no matter what it is, not just your band, like yourself, the casino, videographers, if you're just going for a DJ, if it's flowers, hair, makeup, whatever it is, if you see something you like, get it locked down.
Yeah.
And I also think brides shouldn't be afraid to ask for a payment plan, because if you like a band and they're £1,400, you know, or they're £1,500, or they're £2,000, and you love this band, you know, don't ever feel that you can't go and say to them, listen, do you mind if I pay you this month, this next month? Because the band will bite your hand off for it.
Yeah,
you know,
no, I've had that.
think they just need that clarity.
No, there's no, to me, that makes a lot of sense. I've had brides come to me, you know, and is it all right if I send you £100 now and send you £100 2 months' time? Yeah, no problem. Yeah. And the only thing I say to them is, please, you know, everybody's doing everything bank transfer these days, you know.
Yes.
So whenever you send the money, send me an email to tell me you've sent the money, so I can go in and mark it off, you know.
Yeah.
Because if I don't look at the account, I don't know what's come in, you know, I haven't paid any attention.
It's because you're so rich, because there's so much money in your account.
I wish. So listen, how do people find you? How do they get in touch with you, Elayne?
We are the Collective Wedding Band, and we're on Facebook. So you just have to look for the Collective Wedding Band Northern Ireland on Facebook. We're also the same on Instagram. And you can also get us, well, email us, collectiveweddingband@gmail.com. Dead easy, collectiveweddingband@gmail.com. And you'll always, it's 24/7. We always respond. You know, a bride messaged me 2 nights ago at 12:15, and I messaged back instantly. And she said, why you messaged me at 12:20? And I said, because you I made an inquiry about the band. And then she said, I didn't expect you to be awake through me. And I said, no, just tell me what information you need. And we ended up chatting for about half an hour. And, you know, it made a big difference, because the next day she sent me an email saying, can I have the booking forms, please?
Of course. I would have thought, I mean, you're a musician, a performer, you're always awake at 12:15, you know.
Absolutely.
We don't sleep, you know, that time of night. I always tell the story, going back a long time, you know, before Louis Walsh was famous, you know. And I mean, Louis, you if you phoned Louis at, you know, at 10 o'clock in the morning, forget it. Not a chance at all, you know. But you could phone him at 2 o'clock in the morning and he would pick up the phone and talk to you, you know. And that was just, it's just a total time shift, you know. But anyway.
Did you work with Louis at the same time that we worked with him?
It's a long time ago. I'm talking a long time ago.
Yeah.
I can't even remember who it was Louis used to look after at the time. Was it Royal Flush or somebody like that?
Louis, when we worked together, flip me, it sounds like we're name dropping here, don't it? It wasn't. There's nothing glamorous about the story, I can promise you. Louis had just left the Bunty Hayden office, and he was bringing over acts to do a tour of Ireland. So he was bringing over Sunita and the London Boys and Odyssey and, you know, all these late 80s, early Bronski beat and stuff, you know. And he didn't want the cost, very clever man, didn't want the cost of hiring a PA everywhere he had to go. And then obviously having to pay for a warm-up act, and then having to pay for a sound engineer, you know, and then obviously the staff to set up a PA and all that. So we didn't want to do that. So we hired the band that I was in,
of course,
at the time, which was Paris.
Yes.
And so we used to do all these tours. And I thought that these acts were so glamorous, you know, because they were on Top of the Pops. Like we were watching them on a Thursday on Top of the Pops and playing on Ballybunion with them on a Saturday night. And they all mind.
Oh, flip.
Except for Odyssey. Donald, they all mind. And there was us, like we thought, you know, Louis wasn't big then at all. And then when he did become big, and I'll say this about him, which was really decent. When he did become big, he did ring me and he said, I need you to get away from the management that you're with at the minute. We were Dublin management. I need you to get away from this management, and I need you to move to such and such. And I thought, and he was with a company called Carroll and Associates. Do you remember that?
I remember that, yes.
Yeah. And he had said, you know, we need to get you away. And so he said, I want you to do something for me. So we'd done some work for him, and as my own band had done some work for him, and I owed him commission, and it was punts in them days, and he wouldn't take the punts off me. And he said, I want you to come down and just do backing vocals on an album for me. So I said, right, okay. And I went down and I'd done these back. It was just me in a studio. Davey came with me, done these backing vocals on an album, and away it went. Never heard nothing. And that was so I didn't have to pay him the 400 punts. I thought I was quids in, done the backing vocals, away we went, and had to be about maybe 7 months later, something like that. Boyzone's first album came out. And I was the backing vocalist on 2 of the songs, not mentioned anywhere. And I'm like, that's my claim to fame, put my name on it. He's like, Elayne, it doesn't work like that, love. I paid you for service. So, okay, no worries. So I suppose that's my claim to fame to today.
Well, actually, I'm not going to finish this story, but keep your eyes on the Wedding Jigsaw podcast in the next 2 or 3 months.
Okay.
There is a connection there, but I'm going to say nothing until it happens, right?
Okay.
But you've touched on there, so you have. Okay, listen, we're nearly done here. I just want to ask you one more question. What would you like if you've one thing you wanted to say to a bride or a bride and groom getting married today? What would you like to share with them? What would you leave them with today?
Probably just to remember that they're the client, to remember that they're in control. And even though it's an area that they've never been before, and it's a brand new to try and navigate organizing a wedding for them, my suggestion would be 100%, please remember that you're in control. Whether you book a band or a DJ or the most beautiful venue in the world, it doesn't matter. You're in control. You call the shots. When you pay the money, you call the shots. If you went into a shop and you bought a top, you would go to the counter and pay for it and walk out the door, and that would belong to you. What you're doing is very, very similar. You're purchasing something. You may only be purchasing 2 hours of it. If it's a band, you may only be purchasing 2 hours of a photo booth. But within those 2 hours, you've paid the money for that. So you have the right to dictate when they start and when they finish.
Yeah.
And not to panic about it.
Oh, definitely not.
So many people are there to help you. And if you think you have an unruly crowd, always get Derek Ewing. Always get Derek Ewing. He's brilliant. Derek is literally like, I'm promoting everybody. Your casino's here.
Derek
Wedding shop, Rory.
Derek is completely amazing.
Derek did a wedding for me a few years ago, which was a very, very nervous wedding for me because it was my boss's, and I'd organized everything for him inside. Something like he proposed on New Year's Eve and got married in July. And the only wedding venue we could find was the Penthouse of the Europa. And I did, so I was the band, and he asked me to get fountains and all this sort of stuff and a harp player and whatever. And I got Derek, and he was perfect. I mean, the wedding ran as close to clockwork as possible.
Exactly.
Because this man turned up and just took over. And at one point, the bride was really, people were pulling her to talk to her and stuff. And the poor wedding event organizer was saying that the meal's ready to be served. Can we please get her upstairs? Please, can we get her upstairs? And there was like no moving her. And Derek was like, this is my job. Leave this to me. And he went over and he said, my darling. And he hooked her arm and he said, it's now time for me to escort you straight upstairs. He's just fantastic. See when I get to work with people, see when I turn up at a gig and at a wedding and you're there and I know I've got a good DJ with me and you see someone like Derek, you're just like,
you just
relax. You don't have to worry about anything. There's no worries.
Exactly.
When I turn up with Donald, I know that Donald's always going to find a spot as far away from the band as possible to the casinos for volume. So if I know you're in the same room with me, we always turn it down a wee bit because you have to speak to people at the casino tables, and I just love that and there's also a wedding, Chris Montgomery, he's a videographer. The guy's just, he's out of the wedding shop as well. He's just phenomenal. He is just works completely with the band. It's almost like a one big family turns up to do the day, if you know what I mean. And he's like, right, he comes to me and he'll say, she's coming in now for her first dance, or she's doing, I'm so sorry about that. I'm trying to turn this. My apologies. So sorry, I'm saying about it's like a one big whole family, and it just completely, like, everyone just knows their part. It's all falls into sync. You know, and it's so lovely working with people like that. And I just wish I could get that across to the brides, saying, we've got this. Don't panic. We've got this. If your meal runs on, don't panic. We've got this.
Well, I know it said that the last thing was the last question, but you've just said something there which I'll let you bring up. You'd mentioned the big family and the same people coming along and everything working well. You along with me, but you and Rory, we have a thing going for. You want to talk a wee bit about that?
We do. Well, this was at the very start of lockdown. So, and I had tentatively approached you at the start of lockdown and said, Donald, we need to do something for these brides. People are, to plan the biggest day of your life, and then you're literally waiting week to week to see what the executive have to say to see if you can have a wedding. And I was just, the pain, I could feel the pain. I know this sounds ridiculous, but I could feel the pain and almost hear the torment in the voices of brides that I was speaking to. That just honestly, they were just desolate. It really, really was heartbreaking. And so I just wanted to do something to see what we could do, because I knew people were losing deposits, and then we had to take into consideration people being furloughed. 80% of your average salary every month, that 20% could be your food, your electric, and your heating. So that 20% is now that you were losing out of your wages every month, and you're only getting 80%, and you're trying to put a wedding over. Or you don't know if you have a job to go back to, so you should not just be saving now and not having a wedding. And it's just, I heard every story, which is why I'm sort of throwing them at you, every single story, and I wanted to do something. So I spoke to you, and immediately you were like, let's do something. Let's do something to help them. And so we came up with, and your idea was fantastic. We came up with that. We got our flyers printed, and we offered the whole wedding package for the cost of £30. So you bought your £30 voucher, and you went into, once we had, I think it was 49.59 and so whatever the thing is, the lottery is, then we would contact everyone who had bought a voucher for £30 and tell them to watch the lottery. Whatever the bonus ball was, that person won. Rory, DJ, us as the wedding band, and you. Were you were doing the hypnotist show?
Yeah.
So you were doing that. So that was a whole wedding package, your whole evening's entertainment. And so we decided we were going to run with that. And then for anyone who didn't win, they got 20% off anything that they wanted to hire. So if they wanted the band up front, they knew what our set fee was. It was no con, there was no let's add on 20%. There was nothing. It was, you've got that £30 voucher, you can use that and get 20% off just booking Donald for his hypnotist show, or just booking Rory as a DJ, or just booking the band, or booking the whole lot. So it could range from, maybe getting £100 off something to getting the guts of £600 off.
That's right.
So it was a really good offer for £30. And we decided, we're going to go to wedding fairs and sell these. And we've no wedding fairs. We haven't had a wedding fair. But just on that, the voucher still stands. Donald, you're the main man running this, and we will honour it at the same fees that it was at. Yeah. And we'll definitely honour it. So if you do get, if there are brides looking at this and they are interested, £30, you're still in with a 1 in 59 chance. That's a really good chance. The odds are fantastic. Because I've been going on some other thing to try and ban these ballots for a car, and there's only another 3,500 people to get the car. So the chances of me getting it are pretty slim. The chances of me winning a voucher or winning a whole wedding package for free is fantastic. So thought it was great. For £30, you have a 1 in 59 chance of winning all your wedding entertainment free.
Yeah.
Or even if you don't win, that £30 voucher still entitles you to 20% off all packages in whatever format you want. It's
a win-win situation.
Absolutely.
If anybody wants to do that, if you send me an email, donal@weddingjigsaw.com, I will send you, we'll sort you out with that. So just letting you know. Elayne, it has been an absolute pleasure. I knew it would
I'm sorry, Donald, when we speak, we talk for ages. I'm so sorry.
Yes, this has been the longest Wedding Jigsaw podcast so far.
But we're the longest friends.
Yes, exactly. And we've covered lots of different people and so on. So listen,
just cut out what you don't like.
No, I think I'm leaving everything the way it is. No, it has been really good, Elayne. Thank you so much for coming along.
No worries, Donald. It's lovely to see you again.
So, folks, that's it for this episode of the Wedding Jigsaw podcast. Keep your ears open for the next one. From me, Donal, and Elayne, goodbye.
Bye.